So hopefully you've spent some time playing the game already, and you'll notice that there are many ways that as a disease you can be transmitted, some of which are by bird, by insect, rodent, water, and air. Now, goes for any disease. These are all ways in which regular diseases are transmitted. I mean, they didn't make stuff up, okay? Things to think about here when it comes to if you're being transmitted by birds, you're relying on that sort of way of spreading your disease. So one, that humans are going to come into contact with birds. Also, if you have a high transmission rate, or if birds are transmitting a disease, anywhere where there's things like pigeons or chicken farms, those sorts of places where there's an intimate contact between people and birds, that's kind of the sort of area that you're going to get a lot of transmission. So cities tend to be areas that get sick much more often with something that is transmitted through birds. So for example, with avian flu, that hit major city centers because those birds, the pigeons, those sorts of things that are around in those particular cities, they're carrying it, and people come in contact with those birds all the time. Insects, I mean, relying on an insect vector, I mean, you're relying on something that's going to be biting another human being, essentially. There could be a swap of fluids, a little bit with mosquitoes. They do that. They put some spit into you, and that's kind of how malaria is being passed along. So note that hot climates are obviously better for insects because there's a lot more insects in hot areas. So something that is spread using insects, for example, malaria, tends to happen in hot places where we don't get malaria up here because of our very cold winters. Rodents, anywhere where there's a lot of rodents, you're going to have a lot more of this disease. Keeping things clean, for example, is going to cut down on the rodent population, which means that you're going to cut down on your disease. When you look at the Black Plague, which was not actually carried by rats, but was carried by fleas on rats, it was the rats that they were all over because England at the time was so very dirty, and they had great ways of getting food everywhere. So that was actually what was being the method of transportation for that. So anywhere where there's going to be large people populations, for large landfills, large areas where rodents can get a lot of food, that's where we're going to see higher rates of that sort of disease. Water is everywhere. People need water to live. So if you have a pathogen that is being carried by water, it can be carried essentially everywhere. So especially humid areas, though, are good, obviously, because there's a lot of water in the air, which means that I could actually breathe in the disease. Stuff like cholera is passed through the water, which means that if I'm having anywhere where there is dirty water, third world countries, those are the places where we're going to get more of that particular type of sickness. Finally, air. When we talk about air, we're really talking about sneezing, that sort of thing, them being airborne that way, not just that a wind comes in and wipes people out. But keep in mind that anywhere then where we've got closed off areas, where we have not very good recycling of air, or we don't have a lot from the outside, that sort of thing, that's the places where we're going to get a lot of sickness. So there it talks specifically about plane transmission, and that would be a place of concern.